Today is mastering your calendar, practical strategies to design your day, week, month, and year for success in real estate. And so I am one of your hosts. For anyone who might not know me, Josie Ambrose, Josie from CT. That's how I introduce myself a lot. I'm based in Connecticut. I am the Director of Operations and Marketing for the Valerie King team. I am one of the co-founders of the Real Estate Operations Institute, which is the platform that we teach these classes together on. And then I also run a coaching and consulting business called A Leverage Life. And then I will kick it over to my lovely birthday partner, Carissa Mason.
Yep. I'm Carissa Mason, and I'm located in Georgia, just a little bit south of Atlanta. I am one of the brokers for one of our brokerages down here. I am the owner of CRM Consulting, one of the co-owners of the Real Estate Operations Institute, along with Josie. And I love doing this. Really, this is a labor of love sometimes, but we love this, like just pouring into people and teaching them. And this is one of our favorites to talk about. And we were like, we need to do a class on it because we haven't done a class on it because this is almost like the basis of being successful. Like if you can't get your calendar right, nothing else is going to be right. So,
It's so true. And I feel like I've had this conversation a lot since the beginning of this year, especially. And I think our very first monthly mastermind we did in January, this started to pop up a little bit. And that's when it was the aha, like, okay, we're going to put this class together.
right.
And so we're just going to dive right in. So we're digging into a lot of different pieces about the time struggle, right? So we all know we all get the same 24 hours in a day. So why do some people struggle with their time kind of more than others, right? So like literally like I like this little graphic because whether you're in London, New York, Tokyo, or Moscow, you're still getting 24 hours, right? And so a lot of the reasons that people, there might be more than this, but these are going to be a lot of the encompassing reasons, right? Not being clear on your priorities, struggling maybe with setting boundaries, not knowing what boundaries to set, just procrastination, right? That most of us are guilty of that. Even as someone who's a very high level producer, if you will, right, person, I procrastinate on certain things a lot, right? And then just distractions, overcommitting, overextending ourselves, and then just lack of planning. And so we're gonna kind of dig into these a little deeper and give you guys some actual strategies. You know, we're all about practical application. What can you do right now, right? Not like theoretical changes that you can make, but things that you can do right now in your business to help you overcome some of these. And if there's any other struggles that aren't kind of outlined here, then please drop them in the chat for us because we'd like to see what else you guys might be struggling with just personally that we could potentially help with. Now, I know there's things that aren't clearly mentioned, like if you're struggling like with kids' schedules and things like that, right? But that honestly still falls into the realm of priorities, distractions, overcommitting. It's just how do those fall into those different categories, right?
Yes, ma'am. And so this right here is something that we always forget to schedule. These things, these are the important things. Really, this is the most important thing because this is why we do what we do, right? When you're thinking about your priorities, the first thing that probably came to all of your, I'm not saying I'm, kind of putting it in one bucket, but most people are work. They think about, oh, I need to book appointments or I need to close deals. I need to do this. Okay, rewind back a little bit more. Why did you get into this business? Probably to have a better life, more flexibility. That's the joke of all time when it comes to real estate because we gave up a 9 to 5 to work 24/7 if you're doing it
Right.
right. But how do you kind of like navigate through that? You have to keep focus on what's important to you, right? So God, you, mental and physical health, whatever you prioritize. I talk about this a lot is I start every morning very selfishly. It is usually a very slow morning. If it is not, there's something really crazy going on. I still try to at least get 15, 20 minutes to myself. Wake up early, make sure that's all done. And it is on my calendar every day, my written calendar. Uh, I read the Bible, journal, exercise, drink my coffee. I don't even look at Facebook before then. I don't look at anything. Loved ones. I have date nights on my calendar. So should you. So if it's your spouse, your boyfriend, girlfriend, whomever it is, make sure it's on there. My kids' soccer schedule, just anything that, again, is a value and important to you. Your core values. you know, again, are you doing networking events? Are you pouring back into the community? Make sure it is on your calendar because if it's not on your calendar, what? It doesn't exist. And then work and livelihood. You realize work is last on there. So we're really big on this, not because um, we believe that this should be this way. It's because we've been through it, okay? Both of us have been in this industry for a long time, and uh, it could take everything from you and make you question why are you doing this? And a lot of the time, that's why people within the real estate industry give this up because they don't know how to manage their calendars and then their everything runs them over. So they forgot to pick their kids up from soccer or they can't go on a listing appointment because they didn't coordinate something else. Now, if you are intentional about all this, I'm not saying you're not going to hit bumps in the road. However, it's going to be a lot easier and you start enjoying work again because you've set those boundaries and people start to understand them.
Absolutely. And so I want to just help emphasize some of that. Like the order of it matters, right? Because if you neglect you or God, we put that religious, like I'm religious, Carissa's religious to a degree, right? So if it's God, you encompasses all the mental, physical, spiritual, all of the above, right? If you neglect you, how can you truly give to loved ones? How can you truly focus on your core values? How can you truly give a strong effort to work and livelihood? So that's why the hierarchy matters, if you will, right? If family is a core value, but you've neglected your family, you haven't spent time with them, they haven't heard from you in months, then is it really a core value, right? And so really understand the importance of the order of what's actually important to you. And that ties in with knowing what your true priorities are. So even if you're looking at your calendar, like literally before this, I called a friend. We've been playing phone tag via text for the last few days. She just had a baby. I haven't met the baby yet. And, part of that's because I had like a little cold and I wanted to stay away. But we were like, okay, we need to get it on the calendar. It's just not going to happen. And so we set a date, got it on the calendar because it's a priority for both of us, right? And so that is the level of importance that I try to run myself with, if you will. And so that's what we want to encourage you guys to kind of build some of these habits that if it's important to you, literally, if it's not on the calendar, it doesn't exist. So get it on your calendar, but then you get to decide what's important to you or what might be a want, but it's not a need, right? Maybe you'd like to do it, but it's not that you really need or have to do it, right? There's a difference. Um, were you gonna say something?
No, I was just saying
Okay.
exactly. Yeah. It was just, yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
really, my life has changed a whole lot since I started prioritizing myself and giving myself time in the morning. And I say morning for me, but you might not be, we'll talk about that, but you might not be a morning person. So you need to shift your day a little bit. So do what works for you.
exactly. And so to understand the work priorities, because that is a big part of what takes up our mental energy, you really need to understand your role. And so this is a screenshot. So feel free to take a picture of this slide that literally these are cards that I designed in Publisher years ago. So it's like on an 8.5 by 11 4 square grid. I cut them out, right? So they make little postcard size index cards or whatever. And I put them up in front of everybody's desk physically in the office, right? And so there's never a question what your 20% should be that you are focusing on throughout the day. So if you're in that agent role, it's the lead gen, lead follow up, the face to face, negotiating contract scripts and role play, right? So for me, I'm on this end. As a director of ops, I am the person who does the system development, implementation, I handle the print and digital marketing in my role. I handle the majority of the event planning. I oversee the transaction and database management, right? We had a VA in that role. And then I oversee the client care. We have a client care in that role. And so even though there's people in those roles, it's still people who fall under me, and it's my job to help mentor them, guide them, supervise them, et cetera, right? And then so client care, transaction manager, we also have one for showing partner, for example. And so with the exception of agent, if you're following an MREA model, the rest of these is what we determine based on how we run our team. So you're welcome to R&D this or customize it for your business, right? If you have a VA, if you have multiple people, in those support roles on your team. But I highly suggest that you figure out what is most important for each person to run. For example, this is actually a little dated. Our client care, the current one does not do expires, right? That's not something that we focus on our team, but she does handle like a lot of our website activity because we do get a lot of website traffic, right? So she does market reports and things like that. And yet, like without it being on this, she's virtual, so she doesn't have one of these. And yet we know this, right? So you need to know and have clarity. What are the work priorities? And I do recommend documenting them and posting them somewhere in your physical space, so that it's an easy reference point. And if you find yourself being distracted with other things, is this in alignment with my top 20%, right? 80% of my time, majority of my time should be spent doing the top 20% of priorities for my business. Is that how I'm running my work week, my world? And if not, where do I need to shift? Where do I need to get back into alignment? Like what needs to be taken off of my plate so something else actually in my top 20% can be put on my plate? And to help you figure that out, there's something called an Eisenhower matrix. I'm gonna let Carissa kind of explain this to you. You may have seen this before, but it's always a good refresher to walk through this. And if you haven't seen it before, then this will be something new for you.
Yes, this is your formula to figuring out what you need to be doing and what you don't need to be doing, or what you don't need to be doing right now, right? So when you look at things and you're trying to categorize and figure out what's important for you to do and add to your calendar, like when you're building out your daily, which I suggest build out your daily so it looks very similar. Our brains like patterns, so if you can do that, do that. But when you're looking at your tasks, right? So you want to ask yourself, first of all, and I can't point to it, but the important and urgent, right? So this is a do. If a task is urgent and important, prioritize it. This is your highest priority task. So this is something that you cannot drop the ball on. This is something that has to be done this day. Like I think of it as almost even like, what's the one thing that I need to do today to be successful, right? And so you're going to put that in there. Like the ball cannot be dropped. That's what I want you to think about. This is something that you can't put onto somebody else. It's you, right? So when you're looking at something that's important, but it's not urgent, honestly, guys, most of our stuff falls in this, okay? A good majority of our stuff is stuff that we can schedule out and just keep on top of. This is, your nurturing. This is your audits on your systems. This is developing your systems. This is stuff that you can't forget because it's super important, but it's not like in your face. And this is the stuff that typically the ball gets dropped because it's not in your face and it's not necessarily an income today producing activity, but it is an income long-term activity. It's those seeds. Like when you're a gardener, you think about it, like it is important to go out and pick the fruits and vegetables off the tree because that's the point in being a gardener. However, you wouldn't have had those fruits and vegetables if you didn't plant it, right? So if he didn't get that on his calendar, we wouldn't have the fruits and vegetables to pick today. So these are those tasks that you can schedule out, but you have to stick to your calendar. When we talk about the delegate, so these are not important, but they are urgent, right? And so this is something that needs to be done today, but not necessarily by you, right? So this is where you have your assistants and your showing partners and your TCs. Like those are the tasks that absolutely have to get done, but they need to be delegated to the person that is supposed to be doing it. It's not you. It's not your 20% of
That's
what you
where
need to be.
automation can help too. And
Yes, I
yep,
always forget about that. But yes,
yes.
automation, those are things like, where your CRM can send it out or it's a quick follow-up email, whatever it is. But
Mhm.
and this is my favorite category because guys, I said that a lot of stuff gets we should be living a lot in the not urgent and important, but this not important, not urgent We spend a lot of time there and you don't realize it. It is getting on Facebook and you're trying to do your nurturing, and then you go down the rabbit hole because somebody posted about some drama and you're in the comments for 45 minutes. And then you go on to MLS and you're down 9 rabbit holes looking at what sold. And then you look up at the time and you're like, oh my gosh, my day is gone, right? So these are things that just need to be removed from your plate entirely. And I'm talking about like squirreling things right now, but this is also, Josie just said it in the previous slide where she said there was the expireds on the list. And she, I know I'm not trying to call anybody out, Lisa. I'm literally, this is all of us. That's why this class is great, because this is all of us. But when I'm talking about is delete it, like the expireds. Like if you have expireds on your calendar every day and you're not doing it, you're not going to do it. Simple as that. We had this conversation with one of our ops members the other day. She was talking about going to a different brokerage and possibly going to a different brokerage and weighing everything out. And she said, well, what if I don't have a whole lot of fees at this brokerage. What if I took that money and I invested it and did some, we asked, so how much have you invested up until this point? She goes, nothing. You're probably not going to. So if it's something that is just put on your calendar because it feels good, take it off. It doesn't need to be there. It just clouds your vision. It makes you feel like you're not successful. It does something to you because every day you see something on there and you're like, oh, I didn't do it again today. Oh, I'll put it on tomorrow. If you haven't done it and it's not part of your business plan, just take it off. Don't do that to yourself.
I agree. I'm going to pause. Are there any questions with the Eisenhower matrix or anything that we've covered to this point? Because I do want to, feel free to raise your hand, raise your virtual hand if you have any questions. Otherwise, we keep it rolling. Okay. So now that you kind of have an idea of figuring out those priorities, especially understanding the priority based on the role that you're in, right? Then now how do you protect them? You need to set the better boundaries. And so I love this expression, unless you're on fire, please do not disturb. Like seriously, don't. Okay.
Mhm. Oh, I
um,
used to have this poster on my wall when I was in the office. I literally had, and I did have a little thing. It's like the only way you can get in is if you have a cup of coffee, because that's my love language. So if you have coffee, bring it in. But anything else, unless you're on fire, don't come in. And even if you are, call 911 because I don't. Food, yeah,
you're not a
make an
fireman.
exception for some food too.
And so, creating the better boundary starts with honoring the commitments you make to yourself, right? Like that literally is, I feel like the area where people fall short is because it's so easy for us to break a promise to ourselves. And then right behind ourselves is those loved ones. So even in that order of that hierarchy, right? So maybe for some people, core ethics might come above loved ones, right? And yet, if you can't honor the promise to yourself, the next thing you're more likely to break a promise to a loved one because you expect them to forgive you, right? That's something like that is how the saying goes. And so, in order to do less of that, right? We want to have better boundaries. It's literally just honor your time blocks, right? Set those expectations for others. So it's not just for yourself, but setting the expectation if you have an admin or a VA. Set the expectation with your family, with your spouse, with your kids. If you're working from home, let them understand what that needs to look like for you, right? Don't knock on mommy or daddy's door if the door is closed, there's a sign on the door, like you want a snack, like what are the boundaries that are okay, like that they know what to do so that they don't have to come bother you, or when might be the appropriate breaks in your day where it is okay for them to come knock on the door and interrupt or ask a question, right? Whatever that might look like, set those expectations, right? And then one of my favorite things to say all the time, person knows this, is just say no unapologetically, right? We say yes to way too many things, quite frankly. And part of just setting the better boundaries is learning to say no. And no is a complete sentence. So just say no, right? Do less of checking your emails when you wake up. Like just like Carissa said, why? Because once you start to do that every single morning, you've already started to put yourself in kind of a work mindset. And sometimes, oftentimes, it's a negative work mindset because maybe you have 10 emails that you just woke up to. Maybe you woke up to a cranky client, to a cranky vendor partner, to a bad appraisal, right? Like whatever it is, before you even had the chance to have your coffee, just meditate, journal, or whatever the case is. And so stop checking your email, because then that is how you now are not honoring the time blocks that you made for yourself. You missed your workout because you got buried in the rabbit hole of emails, for example, right? Or whatever that might look like. Um, I encourage this. I do practice this 95% of the time, I'd say. Stop answering calls or texts before work. So whatever your work day might start, right? So for me, if it's after 8:30, like I'm on a call 7:30 to 8:20, I'm on the pivot shift ahead call every morning. Don't call me during that time. I'll respond to texts and stuff while I'm on the call. That's fine, but I won't answer a call so I could pay attention, right, to being on that Zoom call. And yet, so after 8:30, I'm okay with that. But I sometimes will wake up to people, clients or whatever, trying to text me at like 7:15 in the morning. Just because I'm up, I'm not going to respond, because I don't want to give the permission for them to think that that is an okay time to reach out to me. And even at 8:30, it's probably more agents. Like for clients, I'm typically not responding until after 9 a.m., right? Because I have established that that is my work time for them to be able to reach out to me. So whatever that is for you, try to keep within those boundaries, so that you're just giving yourself the breathing room, is basically what you're doing, so that you can get yourself in the right mental state to then dive into the work, right? And then stop giving into energy vampires. So it's an expression, comes from the, I was saying the magic bus. It's not the energy bus, I believe is what the book is called. Um, Energy vampires are the people who suck up that good energy out of you, right? So it is talking to the negative Nancy who is going to just bring you down. You know, that person who's in the office every morning. I feel, oh, I don't know. I feel like almost every office has that person, right? Where they're just that negative energy, and it drains you though. It just, we may not realize it, but it drains you to be around people like that. And so minimize your time with those types of people. But energy vampires could also apply to like the water cooler people, right? Where they just want to talk to you for 15 minutes because they're trying to procrastinate, because they don't want to do what they need to do. And you're just an easy target for them to help distract themselves with, right? So if you fall into that rabbit hole, you're also doing yourself a disservice and taking time away from the things that you actually want to focus on. So does that all make sense?
Yes, and I want to go double back on the emails. This is one of my biggest like pet peeves is when people check their email, like literally roll over. And we've taught a lot of classes, and 95% of the class will raise their hand when you ask, like, who checks their email first thing, or Facebook or Instagram, when they like literally open your eyes, your alarm goes off or whatever, you pick up your phone, and then the first thing they do is look in there. And my question to you, and it's more rhetorical because I know the answer, what type of emails are you getting? Right? They're mostly not good, right? Now, I'm not saying not good like, you're under contract, but you're mostly looking for a problem in the morning. When you open your emails, you're looking to put something out, right? So if you have something under contract, the first thing you're doing is like you want to make sure everything's still fine. Like you didn't get an email of termination, or, a bad appraisal or a bad inspection. And you open it up and it sets that tone for the rest of the day. What you focus on expands, right? So if you're focusing on problems in the morning, what do you think happens the rest of the day? Problems. It's natural. Like it's that reticular activator system that you have. We all have it. It's not special to one person. We all have it. So you ever say, "Oh, I want a yellow Lamborghini," and then all of a sudden everywhere you look is a yellow Lamborghini. It's because what you focus on truly does expand. So if there is one piece that you take out of this slide, guys, do not check your email in the morning. Pour into yourself. And when I say morning, we're going to talk about in the next slide, but when your time is for you, like start that day off positive, pour into yourself. Because with me, with the exercise, what I was doing is putting it off. And in the middle of the day, I would take my break at 12 and do exercise, and then my phone's ringing and my agents want me, and I feel resentful. That's not their fault. That's my fault that I didn't prioritize it. They're call me during the workday. So I just have to pour into myself and do what for me in the morning. And guess what? I get it over with. I have my phone on Do Not Disturb, something I would recommend. And you get it over with and you feel good because you poured into yourself. So now you can pour into others. So I'd wanted to, I'm really adamant about that. That is one of my biggest things.
No, absolutely. And it ties perfectly to this next slide. We did touch on this when we taught the Overcoming Overwhelm class in the past. And so if you've taken that class, then this will look familiar. But it's talking about just how your morning sets the tone for your day. Did you
Yep.
want? Sorry, I
Yeah,
know this
yeah.
is your love language right here, so I was gonna let you run with
Yes.
this
Oh
one.
yeah. Like you guys could tell, like I'm ready on the next level here. So um identifying, I said I mentioned a couple times, but identifying your internal clock is when do you naturally wake up? I am an early riser. I wake up between 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. Sometimes I sleep in, but I do wake up early. I go to bed early. I'm in bed by 8:30, 9 o'clock, and asleep probably by 9:15. It doesn't take long, right? So when I wake up in the morning, my day literally starts off, take my dog out, start my pot of coffee, sit on the couch, I read my Bible, journal. Then once I'm established where I'm up and I feel positive, I poured into myself a little bit, I will get on Facebook and Instagram like anybody else. Still have not checked my emails. I still won't do that. Then I come upstairs and I work out from home or, sometimes I run, but I do my workout, and literally by 8 o'clock, I'm already done with everything I needed to do to pour into myself to start my day successfully. And at that point, I literally then I check my emails, then I'm returning calls, and that usually starts around 9 o'clock. I don't return a call before 9 o'clock unless it's a personal call, but any business calls, you set that expectation, right? And if you answer the phone at 6 o'clock in the morning or 10 o'clock at night, you've just opened that door completely. And so when you open that door, they think it's okay. So when you don't respond or your email or your voicemail says, any calls received after this time will be returned the next business day, they're okay with it. We're more so the ones who say, "Oh my God, I got to return every call. I got to do all this. I got to do that." And then we burn ourselves out and then we're in the industry for like a year because we were like we can't do this. It's just too much, or we just feel like that's normal. And it's really not. There are very successful agents that work from 9 o'clock in the morning till 7 o'clock at night regularly. I have an agent that I know, she doesn't even work weekends. She just does listings and she does not work weekends. She doesn't show buyers, she doesn't do any of that. And she makes great money and people respect her and people are okay with her schedule because she set that expectation, and when she's on, she is on. When she says she's going to show up, she shows up. So when you are doing this, it's not saying that you are not going to ever work, but it's you carving out the time when you're going to work and actually working and not squirreling. So when you erase, you replace. So, life happens. Sometimes you need to flip your schedule, make sure those things move, and you're setting that expectation with everybody. Hey, I'm going to be unplugged for a couple hours today. I have training or whatever it is, but I will return your call when I'm done. But that's basically like make sure you are starting your day with something you enjoy, guys. Um, Maximize when your peak performance, like I just said, I'm a morning person. I am like, I made a joke the other day, like my energy for Pisces energy, but it's really just my energy, is like my 9 o'clock in the morning, I'm like, I can take over the world. And at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, not today. Like it switches like that. 3 o'clock every day, I hit that wall. It does not matter how much coffee I drink, how many energy drinks I drink. I hit that wall every day. And I know that. So I'm not starting projects. I'm not being creative in the afternoon. My morning, I have every idea and can literally do anything. But in the afternoon, not so much. Know what that time is for you. So if you're a night person, I know Josie is kind of like morning and night, and then I don't know, she's
I
always
know.
doing
I'm a
something,
weird
but
hybrid.
yeah, she's all over the place. But I think, in my opinion, just knowing her, her peaks are like on the spectrums, like both ends of the spectrum, and then her workload during the day probably takes away from her creativity because she's in the work mode. But like in the morning and night, it's that free flow of ideas and projects and things like that. So just figure out where you're most productive. Like if you know that 9 and 10 o'clock in the morning, you are bang out your most important stuff then, if that's your calls or your follow-ups, whatever it is. And make sure you are prioritizing one thing every day. What's your top priority? And I'm not saying, make it something that's going to move the needle. This is the biggest thing. It's not, oh, I'm gonna make sure I call my cousin Joe back today. No, what is moving the needle in your business? What is the one thing that you cannot close your eyes and put your head on the pillow before you do this? Like, even if it's at 10 o'clock at night, make sure that one thing gets done so that it makes a difference.
Absolutely. So we have a daily task list that is a resource that we're going to send out with the replay of this, right? And it's got these priority blocks. One of the questions in the chat was like, how do you document and like stick to the time blocks that you made for yourself? And so that task list is something I highly suggest. I've said it a lot recently. Print out like 30 copies, put it in a clipboard, right? And then use one a day. So you're going to put what are your main priorities for the day? So part of all of this is not having too many priorities because then that's how we feel overwhelmed and you get caught in that analysis paralysis, right? But you can put the blocks of, two, maybe three priorities that day, but every day, like Krista said, is going to have one specific priority to identify. And then you can kind of customize the rest of that on how you want your day to flow, right? So that's one resource that we're going to share with you guys. And then what I encourage you to do is look up, if you're not familiar with the term chronotype, I'm putting it in the chat. I didn't want to put a slide because I feel like it ends up going ooh, for a lot of people. But if you've heard the term chronotype, it talks about like, are you a dove, right? Are you that early morning person? Are you an owl, a night owl? Are you, I always forget the third one. It's not a duck, swan. I don't remember what it is. It's another type of bird, probably. But learn your chronotype because there are people, if you're like Carissa, where you're that early morning person, but then it makes sense that her crash almost, right, comes mid-afternoon because she's been going at a high energy, right? Versus someone like my sister, she's a very high top producer, but she is a lark, is what it's called. So she's that person who 10 a.m. is that's her ideal time. She has to be up in the morning for kids and things like that. But as far as work and being able to kind of start to focus on clients and things of that nature, don't really try to do too much before 10. It's just not ideal for her. It doesn't mean she can't, not ideal, right? And that is just how her peak flows. And then for me, I'm a morning person, but then yeah, sometimes I have learned this about myself is that I will get a burst of creativity at 8, 9 o'clock at night, right? And I have to give in to that because that's just otherwise like I can't sleep. And so like I just kind of need to get it out sometimes and then that's okay, right? And but I do also have crashes sometimes. Mine I feel like is like early evening, honestly, because I'm going. So I get that crash, but then it's almost like I get a second wind. So the point is just identify your internal clock so that you can then figure out when your peak window is to maximize. And the point is that it does not need to be by 11 every day. So that is the only part of this that we don't necessarily agree with. It doesn't need to be by 11. If you're morning, like my sister, if you don't really start till 10 for some of the things, like she'll get the physical and some of the spiritual in before that, right? But like the business energy and stuff like that, then maybe her window is like, all right, so get all of that done by 1 because then she starts doing kid pickups and stuff in the afternoon anyways, right? So just understand this about yourself. So look up chronotype and that'll help you go a little bit deeper to understand where you might fall into that. Now, so minimizing distractions. So sometimes we allow the distractions, right? Because we're trying to procrastinate. We talked about that before. So some tips on how to avoid the time suck trap, for lack of a different way to say that. So writing out a daily checklist, we just talked about, we're going to share one, but literally if it helps, just make a checklist on a piece of paper yourself. Build a bunker. So I talked about if you work from home, like putting up a sign on your door. I don't care if your home office is your bedroom, as long as you're protecting that and you're not giving into taking a nap, turning on the TV, doing laundry, right? Like whatever that bunker needs to be for you. Like mine is in my dining room space and but I can block out everything that I need to. That's just one of my gifts. Not everybody can do that. So if you can't do that at home, then you need to put your bunker outside of your home. Go to the office or go to like a co-work space, right? Use focus blocks. So we highlighted that in yellow and mini rest breaks. So focus block is just a time block but where you can be very intentional. So that goes back to that priority, that daily task list that we're sending out. Those priority blocks are like focus blocks. So like if I need to do a listing, I'm giving myself, that's one of my focus blocks, right? So I'm going to give myself this 1 hour, 2 hours, however long it might take you, right, to bang out this listing, get it entered into the MLS, get the paperwork circulated, etc. then give myself a rest break because it's very hard to just power through nonstop if you don't give yourself even that 5 or 10 minutes to stand up, walk away, or even just giving yourself the permission to go scroll on socials for 15 minutes before you jump into the next task, right? Maybe go to the restroom or have a snack, check your email, whatever. That's what those little intentional mini rest breaks are for. Set an alarm or use a timer, right, to switch tasks. So literally you can have it on your phone if you need that level of just breaking you out of the focus of what you're in, or pulling you back in because maybe you did start to scroll on socials. Let that alarm go off to remind you, okay, well, you've now used up your lead gen time and now you need to go get ready for your, buyer consultation. And so the alarm can help in multiple ways, right? I suggest turning off notifications. I don't use notifications anymore on my phone, except for the text messages. Like I'll see them pop up if I need to look at a message, right? But I've come to the point where not only do I enable the do not disturb, I've just gotten to the point where I silence my phone all day. So there's only like a handful of people for emergency reasons if they need to call me that it'll cut through, right? But everybody else, like you're gonna get a voicemail. If you just get lucky and I happen to glance at my phone and I see that it's ringing on silent, I'll answer it, right? But the reality is there aren't any emergencies or very rare emergencies that are going to happen that are going to require me to pick up the phone. But even like now, I'm teaching a class, it's completely silent. Nobody can call me at this point, right? And so doing even those things just helps minimize the distractions that we might be encountering throughout the day. And then there's time traps.
Yes. So we kind of touched on this earlier, and we all do this. Like, this is, and as we're calling everybody out. So it's not just you. So if you feel attacked, you should, because it probably is about you, because it's about all of us. But the scrolling on socials. So we get on there intentionally, right, to say happy birthday and to like people's posts, see what's going on in the community. And we do get into the traps of the comments. And then all of a sudden, we're 9 pages deep and reading about someone's cousin's brother's dog-in-law who ran away, right? And it's fun and it gets you unplugged from your day, but Josie just nailed it. Like, give yourself those time blocks to do that. Like, I have to get up. There's a study that, sitting is the new smoking, right? We all sit, especially if we're working from home. We're sitting all day long. So I do intentionally get up and do the little 5-minute tasks around my house, like fold a little, like if I dump laundry on my bed, I'll get up, fold some laundry, or get on socials. This is the biggest time trap of all, the checking emails frequently. Okay. I can't tell you, and this is where turning off the notifications does help to drown this out, but as many emails as we all get, I know I'm not special, so I know the 300 emails I get a day, I know I'm not the only one. Stop. Stop thinking every time something pops up in your email that you have to immediately respond to it or check it or look at it, whatever it is. Give yourself times throughout the day, like 9 a.m., 12 p.m., 3 p.m., 5 p.m., whatever it is. Just make sure you're checking it because guess what? If someone emailed you overnight, you're getting back to them by 9. If someone emailed you in the morning, you're getting back to them by 12. If they emailed you at lunchtime, you're getting back to them at 3. And if they emailed you in the middle afternoon, you're getting back before you end the day. And the expectation is already there that if it's after hours, you will get back to them the next day. So don't feel like it has to be like done right now, unless it's an emergency and then someone's calling you saying, check your email, I need you to do this now. Always the exception, not the rule, right? Multitasking, we know that's a lie. There's no such thing as multitasking because something is getting dropped. I mean, I wanted to say something else, but it's not getting done to the fullest extent. So make sure what you're focused on, whether that's a person or a task, right? There is nothing worse than talking to somebody and they're sitting there like this, and you feel like I'm not important, right? And I know your tasks can't feel that, but your tasks do feel that because it shows up in the work you put out, right? It's not done to the fullest extent, or you might have missed something. So this is the intention of putting the things on your calendar so that when you are in it, you're in it. And that's one of the biggest things I preach is like, I may not be at every one of my kids' events or every one of my husband's work things, but when I am there, I am there. period. I am not checking my phone. I am not checking my emails. That can be done later. So make sure you're not multitasking because people and things know when you are not asking for help. So this is a big one for a lot of us ops people is we think we can handle it all and figure it all out. And then all of a sudden our worlds crash because we didn't ask for help. When we could have literally, I could have reached out to Josie and said, "Hey, can you help me with this slide for tomorrow's class? I just don't have the time." Instead of staying up till 2 o'clock in the morning, doing it by myself, and then being tired the rest of the day, cranky, and again, half doing it because I couldn't give it my all, right? So don't be afraid to ask for help or clarity on something because it will save you time in the long run. Because if you did something and you interpreted it one way and then she's like, "No, I didn't want it done like that," and then you got to do it all over again, what a waste of time. So don't be afraid to ask for help or clarity. And then starting without a plan. This is a pitfall of me is like I have ADHD to the 10th power and I just run through walls sometimes. And I'm like, no plan, right? I want to paint my house. And all of a sudden, me and my husband start painting a house, but we didn't think about the trim. We didn't think about cleaning the trim before. We didn't think about getting all the supplies to do. And then it winds up costing us more time, more money. And then by the time we're done, we have to redo it because we didn't do it the right way. So think about that stuff. Think about how do you plan it out? And it starts with your calendar, really. And Josie hit this early on. Um, but the opposite, no is a complete sentence. Like, you don't have to say yes to everything, guys. You're not going to hurt people's feelings. Like, now, if it's important to you, that's why we go over what's important to you, what's a priority early on, because once you figure that out, it's easier to say no to the things that are not in alignment with the growth of your business and truthfully why you are in this business. And when you say yes to everything, you're saying no to the things that are important. So just keep that in mind when you are saying yes to every event and every open house and everything, every training. They're not all, you don't have to take them all. I promise you there'll be another training.
Absolutely. And so now we went through the procrastination, the distractions, right? The priorities, the boundaries. And so we're going to dig into the calendar. I am going to move quickly because I want us to get to the live demo part. So these next few slides, just bear with me. Um, so for mastering the calendar, for starters, use a physical or digital, but you need to get a calendar, right? I recommend digital because we live and die by our phones, right? It's phone, wallet, and keys. If we're leaving the house, anything else can be dealt with later. But phone, wallet, and keys are the things that we make sure to have with us, right? And so if your calendar is on your phone, then you're always easier to be able to just update it in real time, right? But whatever works for you, have something. Um, Quick tips, right? Schedule your vacations and time off first. Even if it's a staycation, get it on the calendar. When do you think are you going to want to be off for Christmas? Are you going to want to be off for Easter? Are you going to be want to be off for like 4th of July week? Put those things on the calendar so that you can protect them up front. Jordan Freed is a MAPS coach within Keller Williams, and so he has taught something called a 137W. So it's worth teaching. And the concept is that you take one day off a week, take at least one 3-day weekend per month, take one 7-day vacation per quarter, and then he added the W later on. So like it's Wednesday, whatever it might be for you, but he suggested taking another like half day on Wednesdays or again, whatever day, so that you're getting at least 1.5 days off. And that's really more for agents because if you're in the ops seat, then hopefully you're probably more that Monday to Friday, weekends off kind of a thing. But if you're an agent, a lot of times you do run 24/7, you don't build in those rest breaks and then you burn out, right? So his 137 is a way to avoid that. Putting the 20% blocks on the calendar. So literally, if you're writing out anything, you're writing out like what big meetings are there, what big conferences or whatever that you might be attending, what office meetings perhaps, like if there's a monthly sales meeting that you want to always attend, things like that, right? Um, Meetings aren't necessarily even part of the 20%, but anything big that you know that should go on the calendar. And then leaving the white space. So leaving a little bit of breathing room, like we already talked about, leaving mini rest breaks, things of that nature. Now, here's an example of a potential daily agent's schedule, right? Um, Now, literally, if you're waking up 6 to 8:30, it's your me time. So that can include your workout, your journaling, your meditation, whatever you want that to look like, your coffee and just breakfast, etc., right? And then perhaps doing some kind of script practice 8:30 to 9 because that's actually part of your 20%. And then maybe the next start of your day, quote unquote, is kind of just getting yourself organized, filling in that daily task list, doing any check-ins from the night before, any follow-ups or whatever the case might be that would count as like checking your email. Is there anything that needs an immediate response or whatever, right? Then building in that block of lead gen. Now, you'll see that there's two rotating blocks, something that I just recommend. Now, it can be lead gen back to back, giving yourself a little bit of break in between, or maybe it's some kind of project, right? Or something else, and then you circle back and do lead gen in the afternoon. It is very hard, again, for people to spend 2 hours or more doing the same task without getting distracted and then just not following through. And so that is why I suggest breaking it up. And then it also can rotate, like maybe Mondays is lead gen, but you're door knocking, right? And then maybe Tuesdays is the day that you're working on social media content. And then maybe Wednesdays, for example, is DTD2 lead gen. So whatever that might be, that's why they're rotating blocks. You can kind of decide. Then leaving a block for your showings and appointments, and then another block to make sure that you're kind of doing an end of day wrap up for any follow-ups and check-ins or whatever, and then whatever that last block might look like. So within this model, it's a rough example of a potential schedule, and yet I do know a lot of agents that finish their day by 5:30 and they're home for dinner and they live a glorious life, right? So it's possible. um
It is, but it's more consistency that is going to get it. Like you guys aren't going to fix your, when I say fix, you might not have major problems with your schedule, but it's going to take time, right? Like anything else, it's going to be that consistency. And then it becomes second nature where you don't do anything unless you look at your calendar first. Like it is the best feeling when you let everything out of your head onto your calendar because you can literally go about life and not be like, what am I forgetting? And because I did that for a long time and it's not fun. But this here is just an example of a time block calendar. It is created for one of Josie's virtual assistants, the TC slash database manager, and it just kind of breaks down the day. So if you guys do have, you can do this for yourself or for your team members and helping them figure out what their day should look like, because a lot of us are like, what are you doing all day? We know they're doing stuff, but what are they doing? And so was just an easy breakdown to show the TC slash database manager what her priorities are and how she should handle them in time order, what makes sense for her position. And so you can see that it looks complicated, but it's not. It really is a lot of the same things, just broken down with links built in. This is built right in like an Excel
right.
spreadsheet or Google Sheets. So it's very easy to do this. And this is where I started when I made one of these for myself when I was about to transition out of my position. I was like, we need one of these because someone's going to come in and be like, what does she do all day? And here it is. Like, here you go.
Right. And this makes accountability easier because if it is 2 o'clock and I'm checking our team lead form, right? We use a Google form and I'm seeing leads from last night that haven't been added to the CRM yet, then clearly you didn't follow the schedule, right? Because the priority is we need to get any new leads into the database as soon as possible so we can get them tagged to like the follow-up campaigns, et cetera, right? And so this helps again with your accountability. And like if you're looking at this, all of this, I don't care that this is done in order per se, as long as this is done in that first hour of the day, for example, because ours started at 9 a.m., for example, right? And then maybe it's offers. If there's no offers, you're just moving to the next thing. And so that is what it's designed to help you with. If there's no listing, then you're just moving to the next thing, right? And it does give room within that, like this little block, like that's an example of white space. Um, to be able to know if something is missing, if something else pops up, then that's fine. I know how their day flows, but I just want to make sure they're not squirreling and they're not sitting there twiddling their thumbs, waiting for me to tell them what I need them to do. Like it's mapped out for them, right?
Hmm. Takes the guesswork out of everything and it gives them the empowerment to run their day, really. Like they know they're successful that day if they went through their list. So you're helping.
Exactly. So some quick tips that we already touched on a lot of this, right? So looking at your schedule like daily, picking your one thing every single day, right? We do recommend using color blocks. Just visually, it helps, right? To color block your calendar slots. And one thing I like to say, like if you keep your top 20% activities, like your lead generating, your dollar money generating activities green, if you look at a quick glance, if most of your calendar is green, then you know you're spending the majority of your time on the right things. If the majority of your calendar is like blue or red, well, then you have a problem. You're spending a lot of time on things that aren't actually designed to help bring you business, right? Make sure that your top 20% priorities are blocked within your schedule. Don't forget to include personal things. So that does include like my nail appointments go on my calendar, my hair appointments, if it's picking up the kids or bringing them to, games or things like that. Batching similar tasks. So if you are going to be, for example, in your database, then different things that are going to require you to stay within that database, it makes sense to batch those together. So it's not, I'm in the MLS, I'm in my email, I'm in my database, I'm in my phone, right? You're just in the same kind of software and frequency. Sharing your calendar, we're going to show you how to do that in a second, right? So with a spouse or an admin, that is something that we suggest, especially with an admin, so that they can see like basically when you're busy, and it depends on how much access you want to give them. And then using a scheduler like Calendly, Acuity, or Google has a built-in scheduler as well. Now, do you want to show the schedule for the demo, the Google one, or do you want me to screen share and run through it?
I mean, your screen, I can do it if you want me to. I have it
That's fine.
up.
You can
So,
screen share. Go ahead. Pull
okay.
that up. So we're gonna do a quick live demo. We're gonna show you guys how to create an event, like literally color coding, etc. Because not everybody actually knows how to do that. So we thought that that would be helpful. And then Chris is going to show you how you can use the scheduler within Gmail.
Okay. So you guys see, this is my calendar on one of my 9 calendars, but I'm going to pull up this one because this is our clean one.
Yep.
We don't work out of this one. So you can look at, first of all, a lot of people don't know, you can view your calendar monthly, weekly, daily, whatever you want to do. I usually keep mine on a weekly view so I can gauge what my week looks like. Like Josie said, you can see like your colors and all of that. But when you are sharing calendars, um, guys, bear with me. I don't do this every day, so I'm going to show you how to create this first, though. So a lot of people don't know that you can create appointment calendars within Gmail. You think that you either have to use a third party or pay for it. I mean, I know Calendly does have a free version, but you can do it all right here. So when you go into your Gmail, and this isn't a paid Gmail, so this is a free Gmail. You come in here and you go to create, and I want to create this. And let's say I want this to be my listing appointments. And this is the only time that I'm going to allot for like listing appointments. And I'll say buyer too, listing buyer consults, right? Just for so I don't do multiple ones. So what do I want to allow? 1 hour, let's say, just for this example. When do I want it to repeat weekly? You can change it as you go. So if you're on vacation, you can change it. But let's say, my whole morning is accounted for on my lead generation, all of that. I want to make Mondays available for appointments from 3 to 5. And let's say I want to do it on Wednesdays from this time to 5. And then Thursdays, I'm just making up times, guys, just so you can see kind of how it flows. And then Fridays, I'm not available for appointments. So you can clearly put whatever you want in here. You can create your schedule window. How many days in advance do you need? How many days in advance can they book out? I say you don't want them booking out like 3 months in advance, guys. Like you don't know what you're doing in 3 months. So, I mean, maybe do 30 days. I don't know, whatever works for you. Minimum time before each appointment start that it can be booked, whatever works for you. So you want to give yourself a buffer. And you can go in here and indicate times that aren't available for specific days. Like if today I was like, oh, it's my birthday, I don't want to go on a listing appointment, I would just go in here and click that date. You can do a buffer time between your appointments. guys, give yourself a buffer time because if someone's coming in here, you don't want to be like back to back, especially if you're on an appointment. You can't travel 3 hours across town in 20 minutes, right? So give yourself a buffer time. And then if you have multiple calendars like we do, and we don't have any connected right now, but if you did, you could absolutely connect them right here so that if I book something on my Carissa Mason Consulting, I couldn't book the same time on this. It would show I was unavailable. It would automatically take it off of here. Um, then you can go in here and you can create a custom confirmation email, what you want to go out, just put in there. You can put a Zoom link. So if it's a Zoom appointment, you can put the link right in there. And then you click save, and you now have a calendar that you can quickly share by copying this link. You can put it in your email. You can put it anywhere you want on Linktree, on Facebook, wherever, or just email it out as you go. And when you say, "Hey, Josie, you want an appointment? All right, I'm going to send you my calendar." Josie would pull it up, click on it, and it's only going to give her my availability to book that appointment. So let me see if it will pull it up here just so you can see what it looks like really quick. Probably gonna pull. But you see, it comes up just like a scheduler. So I would come in and be like, oh, she's got a lot of time available. I'm gonna click 1 o'clock, put my name in, and then click book. And then she would get an email and it would block it off of her calendar so nobody else could book. But a lot of people don't know that this is already built into your Gmail, and you see, it's not hard to use. It's user friendly. You can dig in a little deeper because there were a lot of other things that I didn't necessarily go over in complete detail, but use it, guys. It's there for free. So,
No, that's perfect
um,
for a high level overview, I think.
yeah. And then for sharing calendars, um, it's
Do you want
basically, yeah. You want to do
I
it?
can yeah, I
All right.
can take over that part, yeah. And I'll just run through it. Da. Just kidding. I shared the wrong window. Bear with me.
And the reason we're not saying you don't know how to share a
Preview.
calendar, but there's specific things like you can block stuff, like,
Do you see the
you don't want
calendar now?
everybody. Yep.
Okay, go ahead. Finish what you were
I was
saying.
gonna say you don't want people seeing exactly all the details. Like, I don't want my coworker at work necessarily knowing that I'm going to the doctor. I just wanted to show busy, right? I'm
Mm-hmm.
unavailable because you don't owe them an explanation of where you're going, but some people do need to see that. So,
Right. So first we'll do like just a basic event, right? So the appointment schedule she showed you, so just an event, because not even everybody knows how to do that, right? So if it is let's say vendor lunch, right? You're meeting with a vendor, you want to get it on your calendar, send it to them, etc., right? So obviously you can set your date and time, right? This repeat is where I use this a lot. So if it's not going to repeat, but maybe it's going to be something like I'm hosting a seminar and I'm doing it quarterly or whatever, right? You can change it to daily, weekly on Wednesdays. Is it going to be because today is the first Wednesday? So the calendar's smart enough to know, do you want something that's going to repeat monthly on the first Wednesday, for example? You can customize it if you want it to go bi-weekly, then it's every 2 weeks. So every other Wednesday, I'm going to be hosting a class or I'm going to be having this whatever block on my schedule, right? So if you're trying to set up like your lead gen schedules, for example, for yourself, your time blocks, then this is what I wanted to make sure that you guys are aware of. You can have it end never. You can have it end at a certain date. So maybe just for Q1, I want to do, lead gen on Mondays. I'm going to be door knocking or, you know, opposite winter. So maybe in the summer, only for the summer, I'm going to commit to door knocking like once a week. But then once the summer's over, I'm not going to do that. And so I'm going to end that time block, for example, whatever you want that to look like. Um, Obviously, you can put your address, but you can also put your Zoom meetings in here. So if you didn't know, make it a Zoom meeting, or you can copy and paste the Zoom link or whatever. Makes it super easy to just click right into that. Obviously, the notifications would be like if it pops up on your phone or computer. I also like to do an email notification if it's something super important, especially if it has a Zoom link and I want to not forget, right? So I'll do an email notification. It usually will default just like this, 10 minutes before, maybe 5 minutes before. For certain things, I will do like a few days or a couple days maybe in advance. So for one, like I have a nail appointment on Friday. I got an email this morning to remind me because even though it's on my calendar, if I'm not looking for Friday, there's a chance I could accidentally let someone book something, right? 'Cause it's a personal appointment. So I'm more likely to not honor my personal appointment to myself. And yet by seeing that email, it's the reminder, okay, nope, Friday I'm unavailable because I already booked an appointment that I want to keep, right? Or if I needed to schedule, it gives me a couple of days to reach out to my nail person and say, hey, I got to reschedule. And I'm not doing it Friday morning and messing up her schedule for the day, right? So little things like that is how I would suggest using it. You can change the color. We talked about making it green or red. I like to do, red might be urgent, green is your money generating. If it's something that makes you happy and brings you joy, I'm like, what's your favorite color? And pick that. So if it's like a lunch with a friend or something, pick a color that's going to make you smile. You can put whatever notes in here. This happened because I clicked the Zoom meeting. You can add a link. You can add an attachment. So something that my cousin Rodney Mason teaches, his VA like puts his DTD2 schedule in his calendar for him. So every week she gets the list from Command, for example, so that he can just click right there. It'll open up Command for him, and he'll just have this week's DTD2 list. So he doesn't have to go in the CRM and find it. So like that's a way that you can level it up, for example, and do that as well. So some different little tips on how to create the events, duplicate them, um, and and then be able to refine them. So like if I did this, we'll just make it a daily example. So now you see that vendor lunch pops in there every single day, for example. And then to share this, so if I want to share my real estate ops with my VA or admin or whoever, you're going to click the three dots next to whichever calendar. You can unclick this, like if I don't want to see birthdays, if I don't want to see tasks or something, you can unclick this. Um, but click the three dots next to my actual calendar that I want to share, settings and sharing, and if you scroll down, did I pass it? Oh, there it is. Sorry. So it's shared with myself, obviously. I'm the owner, but you can add people in groups. So here, if I wanted to add like my coaching calendar, not calendar, my coaching person, this is me. So if I wanted to add other Josie, then I could do that. I could do see all event details, see only free or busy. So like Josie wouldn't be able to see that there is, a vendor lunch or whatever. She would just see that I'm unavailable at 4:30, right? Or make changes to the events or make changes and manage sharing. So do I want Josie to be able to then share out my events with other people? Do I just want her to be able to move the event for me? Like, hey, go in my calendar and change that vendor lunch to a different day and time, right? So you can control how much access you want to give somebody to your calendar. So I do highly recommend that. The reverse that I showed someone else how to do, I encourage her to take sort of that virtual calendar, for example, to then make it something for her VA. So make her VA's calendar, but then to go and share that with the VA. So she was controlling creating the calendar, and then she was able to share it out with her VA. That way there was no question what the calendar needed to look like, right? And if the VA left, she didn't have to do it a new one every time. She owned the calendar and she was just sharing it with them, right? So then this is kind of the last thing that we just wanted to run through with you guys, just a quick calendar audit. So just some questions that you can ask yourself, right? Are you currently sticking with your calendar? Are you erasing and replacing? And if not, what can you stop doing? Remember Eisenhower, right? What 20% are you not protecting? Like lead gen is usually the top of that list. Do you have white space? Where are you overcommitting and overextending yourself? If every afternoon you're scrambling to figure out what your priority needs to be because you're trying to do three different things, that's an example of overcommitting, right? Are you remembering to schedule personal obligations, family partner time? Who has access to that calendar? Like take a look, right? Do the right people have access? And then decide if you're going to be someone who's stronger with a digital or paper or both.
Yeah. And I do suggest, as much as I love, love, love my planner, I mean, I literally don't leave my house without it. Start with the digital because if you're having to share it or if you're out on the fly, this is a lot harder for me to like pull out than my phone where I can just say, hey, I'm available. But I do come home and put it on here. So it's everywhere. I'm not saying you have to be like me. However, it does help to get it, like I said, out of my head. But I do suggest digital for sure. just for the industry we're in.
Agreed. Agreed. And I know we went over, so I apologize. Thanks for those who hung out with us. We'll stay on for a little bit if you have questions. So I just wanted to pull this up. If you're not already part of our Facebook community, please join. It's a free Facebook group. You can connect with us. If you're not already getting our newsletters and reminders and emails and things, we share out a monthly newsletter that always has a monthly freebie, and then we'll do like a bi-weekly type newsletter with some different resources as well. So just ways to stay connected with us. That costs you absolutely nothing because this is what we love to do. It's just part of how we kind of like to give back.
Yep.
Anything else you want to add?
No, I mean, this was, I know it's a lot, and it seems, what is it? I always get it backwards, but it's simple, not easy, easy, not simple.
Right.
This is, it makes sense to do it, but it's one of the hardest things to implement, guys. So give yourself some grace when you're doing it. Figure out one or two things to add to your calendar and stick with that. Get used to it, get acclimated, and then next week add a couple more. You don't have to change overnight, and you don't have to wake up at 5 in the morning. If you want to wake up at 5 in the morning and that's something you desire, scale back your clock 5 minutes a day. That's it. Like before you know it, you'll be good at waking up at 5 o'clock, because that's what I started doing. I've always been an early morning person, not necessarily 5 o'clock early morning, but it wound up being very rewarding. So once I saw that, it was like a game changer for me and a no-brainer. So
Yeah.
I encourage you to just take little bites. That's how you eat an elephant, just little bites.
I love that. Well, thank you guys. I mean, that's a wrap, right? So, like it says, time can't be turned back, but you can start managing your time from now. So,